Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are going to tackle something really interesting. How an AI can go from being a pretty forgetful tool to a personal assistant that actually, finally, remembers you. We're going to break down a process called the user preference memory strategy.
You know that feeling, right? You tell your AI you like a certain kind of music or, hey, that you have a specific dietary restriction, but it feels like you're just starting over with a complete stranger every single time. Yeah, you put in all this effort to teach it, but the memory just doesn't stick. And this whole cycle of re-explaining things, it's frustrating. It makes our conversations feel impersonal, inefficient, and honestly, not very smart.
But that right there is the big question. I mean, just imagine an assistant that actually grows with you, that learns your tastes, and starts to anticipate what you need. Well, today, we're diving into exactly how that can work. We're going to explore the user preference memory strategy to see how an AI can be taught to truly remember. So it all kicks off with a really powerful two-step process. Step one is what creates that initial spark of memory, and it's called extraction. This is basically where the AI is actively listening in on your conversation, trying to pick out useful insight. All right, let's just use a super simple request to see how this works. Now, this seems pretty straightforward to us, but for an AI, this one sentence actually has two totally distinct types of preferences that it needs to unpack. See, the system is designed to spot both explicit and implicit preferences. Explicit ones, they're the no-brainers. You state them directly. I'm a vegetarian. Boom. But the implicit ones, that's where it gets clever. The AI has to infer them from your behavior, right? Like, if it notices you've asked for Italian food a bunch of times, that's a pretty strong signal that, hey, you probably like Italian food. And this is where the magic really happens. The system doesn't just hear your words, it translates them into structured data. It takes what you said, organizes it into a nice, clean format, and even tags the preference with context and categories. This makes the memory readable for the machine and gets it all ready for the next step. Okay, so once a preference is extracted, the system has this little nugget of potential memory. But it can't just store everything, right? It has to decide what's actually important. And that brings us to the second crucial step, consolidation. You can think of this as the AI's internal filing system. So this memory manager, it has a really important job. It has to look at every new piece of information that comes in and decide, is this a lasting preference? Is this important enough to file away permanently in the user's profile? And to do its job, the manager makes one of three choices for every single piece of information it gets. It can add it as a totally new memory, it can update a memory that's already there, or it can just skip it and toss the information away. So you're probably wondering, how does the AI actually make those choices? Let's take a peek behind the curtain and look at the logic behind each of these decisions. Because understanding this is really the key to seeing how an AI builds an accurate and relevant profile of you. First up, the AddMemory operation. This one's pretty straightforward. It's for brand new, important preferences the AI has never heard from you before. You know, think about it like the AI learning for the very first time that you have a peanut allergy. That is a critical, permanent piece of information that needs to go in the file. Now, UpdateMemory is where the system gets a lot more nuanced. This gets picked when you give it more detail on something the AI already knows a little bit about. So it's not a new memory, it's more like an upgrade to an old one. So, for example, let's say the system already has a little note that you enjoy science fiction. Then later on, you happen to mention that you have a special love for space operas. The system doesn't create a whole new separate memory file for that.
No, instead it does something much smarter. It merges that new detail with the existing information, and what you get is a richer, more detailed, and way more accurate profile of what you actually like.
Okay, and now we come to what might just be the most important operation of them all, SkipMemory. This thing acts like a critical filter. It protects the AI's memory from getting cluttered, and really importantly, it keeps it relevant and safe. And this just shows you the guardrails that are built into the system. It's designed to just ignore all the temporary noise, right? Like feeling tired or a one-off comment about solving a math problem. And crucially, it also filters out stuff that's redundant, personal details that aren't actually preferences, and most importantly, any sensitive or harmful content. So what's the point of all this? What does this all add up to? I mean, why go through this whole complex process of extracting and consolidating memories? Well, the payoff is all about the quality of the conversation you have.
Let's just look at two conversations side by side.
because this is where you can see the real-world difference that a system like this makes.
Without memory, look at that. The AI's suggestion is totally generic and, for our vegetarian user, completely useless. It's a technically correct answer, sure, but it's not a helpful one. But with memory, the response is instantly personalized, it's relevant, and it shows that it actually understands the user. That's a game changer.
That two-step strategy, extraction and consolidation, that's the engine that powers this entire transformation. It's what turns a simple, forgetful chatbot into a thoughtful assistant that actually learns from you, adapts to you, and hopefully makes your life a little bit easier. And as this technology gets better and better, it really makes you wonder what the future of truly personal AI is going to look like. How is it going to change the way we interact with tech every single day? So I'll leave you with this. What's the one thing you wish your AI would finally remember about you?